The Crave. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and races of the Warhammer 40k setting, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace. There is only time for war. If you wish to see the channel flourish and possibly take on bigger topics and get better resources, then like and subscribe, but also consider joining our Patreon or throwing a one-off tip in the form of a super thanks. And today, we shall be discussing a thing of true dread. Now one might say, but Uncle Voldemort, how many times are there such terrors to behold, such horrors to be revealed? Well, gentle listener, the hint is in the byline. For this is the grim darkness of the far future. This is irrefutably a horror setting. And the things that creep and crawl in the darkness is the whole point of the sandbox that was. There are still elements of old rogue trader wandering about the setting, too quiet to be noticed, too unimportant to be expunged. For Warhammer 40k began its journey as a dark and terrible place where the fear of the unknown was rich and ripe. It was a simple premise, the 5-year mission of Star Trek repute, but instead of meeting scantily clad green ladies and moral quandaries where both sides were merely ignorant and arrogant and needed the shining example of the Federation to show them the way, instead, the humans of the grim darkness of the far future were venturing out into a galaxy that seemed inimical to human life, where every encounter was shrouded in mystery and could just as easily be dripping in blood, where instead of losing the occasional guard in a red shirt, one could lose entire units or armies due to a single misstep or undiscovered trap or ambush. Nothing was ever as it appeared, and rare was the encounter that did not end in gratuitous carnage. It is a war game after all, hence are so many of the elements of the setting designed to create that claustrophobic air, the chill that makes every mission an adventure. Alas, this has been lost in great part by the eternal march of its change from a sandbox setting to a defined storyline. But one must roll with the times, as they say. Now, let us uncover the truth of the subject of the day, one of those old lost elements of darkness. Let us discuss the Crave. As usual, my format is simple, a short story to whet the palate, then the hard lore to follow. So, let us be about it. From the Bold Library, Extermination. They came from the stars, filled our skies with their vast metallic monsters. Ships were they, massive beasts that could fly from one planet to another, and now we were all part of the Imperium of mankind. Gone were the days of watching the skies for dark shapes that heralded slavery and slaughter. Gone were the days of running and hiding whenever a new set of aliens had found our backwater world. The greater human race had come, and they had brought us into their bosom. We were all one now, one race, one goal, one great crusade. They came amongst us, talked with us, proclaimed the manifest destiny of our people. We, the hurt and hunted, we humans, we were the strong. We were the righteous. We were unified under the leadership of a man who could protect us all. His will, the will of humanity, his will, the future of our race. When these people said I would see the universe, I was agape. It was all I ever wanted, to be rid of the mud hole I had been raised on, to go out amongst the stars and visit the worlds which orbited them. to witness the splendor of the universe firsthand. To live, not just exist. I fought harder than any of our cohort, drilled longer, cleaned and dragged and leapt and ran. I did everything that was expected of me, then more, because I was filled with the fire of the crusade. We, poor pathetic humanity, had so recently been the food and playthings of terrible Xenos races, and with the Emperor and his sons leading the way, the Legiones Astartes carved a path across the galaxy. Finally, it was our time, and we would hunt down our tormentors and end them, one by one. It was a dream. I craved these words, these ideas, but after seeing what horrors existed out there, how could this be done? Then I saw them, and I instantly knew I would be one of them. I had to be. The Space Marines. Knights in armor strong enough to turn even the bolts and blades of the Xenos. So, from that moment on, I was tireless. I had to be amongst their number. Oh, I wanted to see the galaxy, as I have said, but I wanted one thing more, so much more than that. I wanted revenge. And by all that is good and great, we took it from them. The Xenos. Retribution was our call, our role, and our duty. Revenge. The fighting was always hard, even when I managed it. Amongst 100 of my city, only I was chosen. But across our world, it was thousands of us who made the mark, passed the tests. We went through the change, and within months, I was one of them. A warrior of humanity. A Space Marine. Our Lord was not kind or placid, not full of platitudes and high-flown concepts of honor or valor. He was the Red Angel, and the Lord of the 12th Legion, his world eaters. And I adored him. I worshipped him. Few understood why. For them, the Terran Marines, it was all about rescue and reverence, purity of purpose. But for me, it was the same as our Primarch, our Lord. I did not wish to welcome all back into our realm. I wanted to break the Xenos, to see their blood pouring from them, to eradicate them root and branch. And in this, our Lord was of a mind, or so it seemed to me. No restraint, no mercy. All would bend the knee or be exterminated, and all Xenos would be annihilated. When we came to Seriac 17, we came in numbers, for the planet had repulsed multiple assaults by smaller expeditionary fleets. So Angron came himself, and he came mob-handed. We fought our way through their orbital defenses. Nothing could stop his Gloriana-class battleship. And it was the people like me from our home world who helped advise the others. We knew of the Crave, those horrors who came in the night and took entire cities of our people into their horrid ships. It was as we feared, for this was a densely populated world. Humans, of course, but each and every last one of them was controlled by the Xenos Crave scum. Where we came down via spear tip, the landing was utter carnage. Endless waves of barely armed human rabble were sent at us. It felt wrong to butcher so many of our own, but it had to be done. We raked them with bolter fire, burnt them with flamers, bombed them from above, all in an attempt to create pathways to get to the Xenos masters. Waves of psyker attacks also washed over us, attempting to dominate us, weaken us, but they did not know the resolve of the Legiones Astartes. We did not bend to their manipulations. Worse, well, for them, it enraged us so much that it was difficult for many squads to extract themselves from the carnage, wading through the possessed masses, our ire a suitable shield from the machinations of the Xeno filth. Yet, when we got into their ancient fortifications, it went badly. They were huge, as large or even more so than we Space Marines, strong, too, equal to ourselves, faster than any human alive, or so they thought, until they tried to match us in close. Their blades swept through even Mark III warplate, if it hit, of course. They swept down on us from above, winged and terrible. They screeched at us as they flocked down, firing their guns that would burn a man from the inside out. But when they came in close, when they reached us, it was all fair game. We were as fast, as strong, and far more aggressive. The power of the Primarch, his sheer rage, suffused all of us. We brought them down by shooting their wings, then pounced on them and tore them apart with chainsaw fist and rage alone. And as their powers dwindled, their waves of psychic power eroded, but nothing of our rage was assuaged. We cut and hewed, bled and burnt, until every last one of them was rooted out and slain. I would like to say that this was a demonstration that they saw our power and fled for all eternity. Yet, even now, half of the reports that come back from the conquered regions are filled with sightings or strife, and it is often the Crave that are its perpetrators. Foul scum. They should know when they are beaten. But then, the Ghoul Stars are a nasty region indeed. I had hoped the Primarch Angron would lead us into its center and allow us to cleanse the whole damn place. But we are heading back to resupply and join with other legions. Something is happening. Something to do with the War Master. So, we set off for Istvan. The Crave. Ancient beyond belief, they are malice given flesh and form. The Crave are so antediluvian that they are rumoured to be survivors of the first times, even before the war in heaven. Some say that they were an experiment of the Old Ones gone bad. Others state that they were not directly involved in the confrontation between the Necrons and Old Ones, that they simply evolved and then existed during this time of upheaval and have trudged down the ages since. For the Crave have all the markings of a species developed by the Old Ones, yet with a spite that far closer matches the persona of the Necrons and their Dark Masters, the Star Gods, the Catan. And it is the Crave, near as much as the Sloth, Nephilim, and the Rangdan, that contributed to and reinforced the xenophobia of the Imperium of Mankind. People often forget that the Great Crusade was not merely a campaign of conquest and acquisition. It was also a war of emancipation and retribution. The unspeakable atrocities inflicted on humanity were all witnessed by the expeditionary fleets of the Great Crusade. If one can say, "Do to others as you are treated," then the Great Crusade gave endless fodder for the justification of the annihilation of all alien life. What many, many Xenos species did to humanity, it was unthinkable, unforgivable. But who are the Crave? Far larger than a standard human, mammalian of course, they are like unto huge advanced bats. They have hands that are perfectly able to manipulate complex equipment and weaponry, and they are possessed of an insidious intelligence. Swift as anything that flies, they are deadly in combat. Like most sentient beings, they exist both in the corporeal world, the materium, and the warp, the immaterium. They have what we call a soul. But what a dark and terrible thing this must be. for the Crave are incredibly strong latent psykers, and they are known to be effectively immortal. They increase in potency with each passing year. Imperceptibly, it is true, but over the eons, their oldest become true colossi. For they do not just grow in physical power, but also in psychic potential. The ancients of the Crave could match against the legendary Primarchs themselves, but we shall get to that in due course. A spacefaring species, but not as technologically advanced as many races of their origin period. They are merely equivalent to the levels of the Imperium, despite their longevity amongst the stars. An oddity to be sure, for if the Crave had technologically progressed even at a snail's pace, their duration amongst the stars should make them unassailable by this point. So, for my part, I believe it most likely that the Crave stole this technology from an unwary race who landed on their world of origin, but there is no way to confirm this with the details available. They have stalked the fringes of the void for tens of millions of years, all throughout the slumber of the Necrons and the hegemony of the Eldari. Then, through the comparatively short period of humanity's age of technology, it is presumed that they must have simply hid in these eras, for nothing they presently control or use could match the wrath of the Eldari or human fleets and forces at their zenith. Hence, they are known to be consummate and superlative survivors. The entire race is thought to be nomadic in nature, at least now. There are records of encounters that point to them having a world of origin, of course, but it is impossible to tell anything for certain. Because the Crave are neither forthcoming with their history, nor anything else for that matter. They have never once engaged in any form of diplomatic or discursive encounter with humanity. Simply put, the Crave would consider this playing with their food. Their fleets are made up of a variety of sizes and classes of vessel, equivalent to the power of the Imperial Navy. They are designated as web ships or nest webs and snare ships. All are armed with devastating weapons, but do not have defenses that are that advanced or impressive. When boarded, the Crave ships are filled to the rafters with hibernation pods. Many are believed to contain Crave, who are in some form of slumber to reduce consumption and requirements for resupply. But it is also noted that many more of these hibernation pods are filled with consumables, i.e., sentient beings that the Crave will dine on. And this is their modus operandi, to descend on a world chock full of sentient beings, to then overcome their defenses in one way or another, and then harvest the lot. Most Crave fleets then move on, continuing their endless cycle of survival through stealth. Some Crave have been discovered to be herding a planet's population, like a farm, taking only that which is sustainable, herding the population like cattle. But this is by far the less common situation, for it pins the Crave fleet in place, meaning it is vulnerable. For the fleets of the Crave are meagre by consideration of even the current era. Certainly nothing to take lightly, but not on a scale comparable to an Orc War or Tyranid Splinter fleet. Not nearly, although there have been occasions where entire armadas of Crave have actually come together and then come out of the Ghoul stars shooting everything in sight. Yet it is not in their strength of naval power that the true threat is shown. As stated, the Crave are psychically attuned to the warp, and their ancients can wield it like a scalpel. They do not use blatant shows of vast power, do not have psykers that flatten castles or turn valleys into lava pits. No, they are masters of the mind. An Elder Crave can manipulate and possess huge tracts of the population through mental domination. The most potent of them can puppet vast tracts of a world many light years away. They use them as cannon fodder in wars and get them to placidly walk into holding camps before transporting them to their ships. They are that powerful. But the Crave are most noted for the warp-generated weapons of their warriors. the Crave combatant will wield a weapon forged of the warp. Called warp glamours or ether blades, they are a solidified focus of the warrior's will, able to carve through even ceramite with ease. The blades of the Crave can cut even a space marine in half. When used in projectile weapons, the ammunition shot from Crave's small arms is charged so that it heats up and melts the internal organs inside the victim. Oh, so much like a bolter's ire. Even though they are charged with negative warp forces, these weapons, when made, can be used by any. There are reports of forces of the Horus Heresy using Crave extinction carbines, though this is now strictly forbidden in the age of the Imperium and Era Indomitus. The Crave have been involved in many battles against the Imperium. The first encounters, predictably, were during the Great Crusade. As usual, when the Crave were detected and their power at its height, it was the usual suspect that was tapped to deal with them. The legendary Fighting First and their lord, the first Primarch, Lion L. Johnson. As he did with the Rangdan Xenocides, the Lion got the job done. In this event, he even met the King of the Crave, the Ortok Thonar, and had to defeat him personally. Not that it went that well, for the Crave Lord was every bit his equal physically, and near drained the Lion of his very soul. Yet, when the forces on the world below were smashed by the Lion's armies, especially when the Crave main War Machine, another psychic titan that I love so much, was then destroyed, it led to so many Crave casualties that their psychic link sent a backlash at the Ortok Thonar so great that it crippled him, and the Lion struck, slaying this Crave king down. It is presumed that the Crave lost the majority of their power in this event, as they are a slow-growing race, maturing over millennia or more. Hence, when the Lion and the First Legion destroyed their leader and its cabal of lesser lords, it represented a loss millions of years in the making. And the Crave have never recovered from the slaughter of their leadership. If left to their own devices, they may one day regain their power, but this will not be within the scope of the setting, as it would surely take millions of years to actuate. Yet, this does not mean that they are broken, for the Ghoul Stars are where they are believed to be from, but their predations have been noted in every segmentum of the Imperium, even to this day. Their caravans of evil and carnage are everywhere and nowhere, striking out of the darkness and retreating back again and again, in their never-ending cycle of consumption. They were so prevalent during the Great Crusade that there are intimations that the Imperial Militia was created to hold planets in case of their resurgence and domination of a world brought into compliance. Of course, these forces then evolved into the present-day Planetary Defense Forces. A huge drain on resources for the fledgling Imperium, so it must have been so regular to witness attacks by the Crave that the human race spent endless resources fortifying their newly claimed worlds due to their predatory actions. Now one might state, surely, these nasties would make a wonderful addition to the existing armies and definitely take some small step towards bringing the horror element of the game back to the fore. Alas, gentle listener, their hive gestalt mind is too similar to their predecessors, the Tyranids, and their consumption of worlds too close to the real space raids of the Drukhari to be truly novel or different enough to denote their realization in a full army. They are, like so many elements of the setting, merely flavor pieces now, names to be bandied around when one is looking for a rare adversary for a deliciously constructed successor chapter or the like. A footnote in a galaxy of unending war. I have been Baldemort, your faithful servant. Like and subscribe, and tip if I have earned your bounty. But most importantly of all, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.